What's going on, everybody? This is Cody, the home theater hobbyist. A few months ago, I got the opportunity to tour the Audio Advice showroom in Raleigh, North Carolina. Scott, the CEO of Audio Advice, gave me the tour and it was fantastic. In fact, I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check it out if you haven't seen it. But suffice it to say, you should definitely go to Audio Advice because they have tons of gear, tons of so you can kind of get in there and just experience a lot of different setups and gear. So definitely check it out. But one of the things that we saw while we were there were the speakers, the JBL HDI-3600s. And after we got off camera, Scott and I were talking about different speakers that I like and sort of the sound that I like. And he said, Cody, you really need to try those HDI-3600s because they have these compression drivers that sound fantastic with movies. They are incredibly dynamic. You really need to try them. And I was like, okay, yeah, Scott, I will definitely try them. So I reached out to his team and they sent me these. And I have to say, Scott was right. These things sound fantastic. I watched several movies, listened to music, watched TV, and I was just impressed. I'm just impressed. The overall sound characteristics are, these are just a little bit bright, which means that they have a little bit more definition, a little bit more clarity at the high end, but they are not harsh. Not harsh at all. In fact, let's play an audio sample so you can hear how these sound compared to my Klipsch RP260Fs. Hopefully you enjoyed those audio samples and you could hear the difference between the Klipsch and these 3600s. Now, you probably noticed that the Klipsch was brighter, whereas this may have actually sounded a bit warm compared to the Klipsch, but that's really because the Klipsch is so bright. In fact, some people actually criticize that particular line of the Reference Premier as being a bit harsh because they're so bright. And I don't necessarily hear that, but I can understand exactly why people say that because they can be bright. These are not that. They're not harsh at all. They sound fantastic in the treble regime. I mean, it is clean, clear, and an actual smooth treble sound. And honestly, I think that's probably due to the way these speakers are designed. They have this patented compression driver technology supposed to smooth out the frequencies that's actually coming out of this tweeter right here. And I think JBL nailed it. When I was listening to orchestral music and you got the violins hitting those high A's, it was, again, clean, clear, detailed, and smooth. I really like this overall sound. It is a nice, smooth, refined sound. And that continued on in the mid-range. These three 6.5-inch drivers right here, they handle the mid-range and the bass. And again, the mid-range, nice and smooth. Just a touch bright, just a touch brighter than a neutral sound. But again, it sounds really, really good. My only wish is that it was a little bit more prominent. I wish they had an extra, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 dB of mid-range, just to give it just a little bit more prominent. But honestly, it sounds so good, everybody. It sounds really, really good. And that kind of brings me to the bass. These things will play down to about 40 hertz. And they do a great job even at 40 hertz. I watched several movies, including Dune. And if you've watched Dune, which I have right here, There's a lot of really heavy bass notes, dum 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 dum, you know, in the Dune soundtrack, and these played it. I was playing at reference level, and I mean the floor was vibrating. I could actually feel the bass, and it was just these two speakers, not a subwoofer, just these two speakers. Now, again, this will play down to about 35, maybe 40 hertz, or I would say 40, maybe 35 hertz. So it's not going to go down to 20 hertz or 15 hertz and stuff like that. So if you want that, definitely add a subwoofer. But these were quite impressive on their own. And the good news is, it's a clean, clear, refined sound. And I think that has to do, again, with not only the driver that they've patented, but these cabinets. You hear that? They are dense, they are thick, they are definitely damped in there. And I think that helps give you a nice, clean, robust sound. It's incredibly dynamic when you're watching your action movies, but it just sounds good even when you're watching regular movies. I watched The Wizard of Oz from, 1939, just trying to see exactly how these would sound with just regular movies, you know, just mainly vocals. And again, it sounds good. It just handles whatever you throw at it with ease and refinement. I like the way these sound. I also like the way they image. Left, right, you get decent height. It's not the, I would say, the tallest speaker I've heard as far as height is concerned, but there is a ton of depth with these speakers, and that is great, especially when you're listening to music, because if you're listening to live concerts and you've got the main vocalist in the center, you've got a band surrounding them, you can kind of tell, not even kind of, you can tell where the different band members are within the sound field. You've got some people that are more forward, some people that are more back, because there is depth with these speakers. And that carries over into movies as well, because there's depth in a soundstage of a movie. Things are happening in the foreground, things are happening in the background, and you can hear that with these speakers. I mean, JBL has done a great job with these speakers. I'm kind of struggling because I was just impressed. You know, just to say it, I was just impressed. And I was so impressed because this is just two speakers. I didn't have the center channel. I didn't have the bookshelf speakers to give me a good 5.0 experience. I just had these two, and I was just playing movies. I was just watching TV, I was just listening to music, and these sound just that good. Now, I'll say this as well. These do remind me of the HECO Auroras that I reviewed just a few months ago. Those had a bright sound too, and I really enjoyed watching movies on those speakers. But these are better than those HECOs because it's more detailed, it's cleaner, and it's an actual more refined sound. So if you like the HECO Auroras, you've seen a few reviews, but you're like, oh, I want a little bit more refined sound, something like that, definitely check these out because, again, these things sound fantastic. They're better than the HECO Auroras. But that kind of brings me onto my sort of wish list. And there's a couple things I wish that I had. First of all, I wish that I was able to listen to more than just these two speakers. I wish I had a center channel. As you can see, I've got my Klipsch RP440C right here, but it doesn't image the same. The timbre is not the same. So as it moved across the front soundstage, it just doesn't sound the same. But if I'd had that center channel, I think it's the HDI-3600, I think the image across the front stage would have probably been seamless. So I wish I would have had those, but I didn't. But honestly, I can say just having these two, these things sound fantastic. They really, really do. Now, that brings me to the drawbacks. The main drawback that I see, or that I can think of rather, is that these are nominally 4 ohm speakers. They're 90 dB, so they're pretty efficient, but they're still 4 ohm speakers. So you need to make sure that you have an amplifier that can drive a 4 ohm load. Now, a lot of entry-level AV receivers can't quite do that. So you're gonna need an AV receiver with a little bit of beef, something that's rated to go down to 4 ohms. And even then, you may still need a power amplifier. I tried these with my Denon AVR, and it works. They're rated to go down to 4 ohms, but I was only driving these two speakers. If I had an entire 5.1 setup, at the top end of the volume, it might not have had enough power. So having an external amplifier would help. And I did try these with the Emotiva BassX A7, which is one of their entry-level amplifiers. And I've got that in for review. That review is coming out, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you'll be alerted when that is published. But I did try that amplifier, and it'll output up to 90 watts per channel, and it handled these with no issues whatsoever. Crank the volume up to reference level. It was loud in here, but it definitely played them. So, like I said, the biggest downside to these speakers and the series in general is that they are nominally rated at 4 ohms. So you will need a decent power amplifier or AV receiver to drive them. But otherwise, these again sound fantastic. So I've talked about sound quality, but I have not talked about design. And I have to say, these things look fantastic. I love these rounded edges right here. It just looks really good. And I love being able to see the drivers up here, and this compression driver looks fantastic. But they do come with magnetically attached grills, so you can just snap those on and you're good to go. And on the back of the speaker, they have dual ports and also dual binding posts, so you can bi-amp or bi-wire these if you want to. And if you bi-amp them, you'll be getting every ounce of performance these drivers can give you, so that's just a cool little feature. And they have 3 surface finishes. They have the gray oak wood veneer that I have here, but they also have a walnut and a gloss black surface finish. Now, me personally, I'd probably go for the walnut. I like the way that looks, but honestly, it is totally up to you. But like I said, these are fantastic speakers. Oh, and they're a little bit heavy because they are quite dense, but that's, you know, neither here nor there. But these sound fantastic and they look really good. They will match a really nice home decor. Now, some of you may be asking, that's great, Cody. They sound good, they look good, how much do they cost? Well, this pair is just under $4,200 for the pair. So it's not inexpensive, but they really do sound good. I mean, they sound really, really good. And if you're like, that's a little bit out of my budget, especially if I want to get a 5.1 setup, what I would recommend, these sound so good, I would honestly recommend that you just buy a pair first and then just add on later, because even in a 2-channel setup, these sound good. They really do. Having a center channel would make them even better for movies and stuff like that, but even a 2-channel setup with these sound good. And honestly, I don't have any issues giving these my highest recommendation. They are truly probably the best sounding bright speakers that I've heard in this room, period. I mean, they are just that good. So like I said in the beginning, Scott was right. Now, some of you may be asking, well, you like them so much, are you gonna buy them? Are they gonna be your next speakers? Probably not. And that's only because I had the Aurora Sound 1723S's, and I do like those Aurora Sound 1720S because they, are neutral. They're also a form of speaker, so they require a bit to drive them and stuff like that. So that helps testing out amplifiers and stuff like that. But honestly, these are probably number 2. I'm gonna be honest with you, these things sound just that good. So yeah, highest recommendation. So if you wanna purchase these or anything else, use those links in the description below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. I'll talk to you next time.